Inevitably, I had to return, for I had been housed. My homelessness had been successfully resolved to the satisfaction of the charities, my happy ending achieved. I was locked into a lease that had left me a month in arrears, in conditions neither safe nor stable, dependent on benefits I did not need when I first turned to the charities for help. When all was said and done and the paperwork completed, I was left in possession of an overpriced, overglorified wardrobe to store my clothes and few possessions while I continued to sleep in the relative safety of the streets. I did not want to risk losing the storage space, so I eventually returned. Some months had passed, but little had changed. I no longer appeared to be under the threat of a random vigilante attack, but my former friend and current adversary was still lurking, having been successfully housed in the area. I spied him a few more times, and was able to slip away unnoticed before stumbling into his sight. Inevitably, our paths crossed. I was rolling a cigarette on a rubbish bin on Wellesley Road when he unexpectedly came around a corner in his now familiar rage. Punching and kicking the air as he stormed, his rants and shouts were interspersed with the singing of random song lyrics. His appearance was so sudden I hadn't had time to race out of view, and his eyes locked on mine. Without recognition, he looked right through me and passed me by, continuing his song-filled tirade down the street. A little under 3 weeks later our paths crossed again. He was again raging, rambling, and singing random song lyrics with little coherence I could discern. I pointedly moved into his view and, terrified, uttered a friendly hey as he neared. He looked at me, again without recognition, and continued on his way. I still feared him. I still hated him. But surprisingly, my heart broke for him. For that man had been a genuine friend, a partner in crime who had watched my back, saved my life, and added his skill set to mine, so together we had a fighting chance at survival. I was the brains, he was the brawn. But it wasn't enough. We both suffered our individual slings and arrows of outrageous fortune until the friendship shattered. We both refused to play the games we knew were not in our best interests, and we had both paid the price. His story will always remain more tragic than mine. Our homeless situations should have been quick fixes, yet proved to be anything but. For the streets are vicious, the charities more so. And like so many others, we had been broken by the process, and forced unnecessarily into a relentless cycle of bureaucracy, zealotry, and abuse that never ends, the successful resolutions providing a shaky, porous foundation too easily upended by the actions of others, intentional or not. We were now two broken husks of the men we had once been, neutered, neutralized, and hobbling to our inevitable, preordained fates. Fates decreed not by God, but by the good Christian charities that serve in His name. You can't fight fate, you can't fight the charities. The endings to both our homeless odysseys had been written for us. We had no choice but to accept them. Except for one small glimmer of hope. Big Bird had done his job well. My former media employers knew it, and had allowed me to bumble through a moderately successful career in journalism. My family knew it, and had supported me in my spontaneous, ill-thought-out pursuit of my writing dreams. The charities knew it, and were eager to exploit it, free of charge, to promote themselves and their cause, while I remained stubbornly unemployed. And when I refused, they retaliated, assuring me no one would believe me because I was homeless. It was time to put Big Bird's lessons to good use. To reveal my experiences within the system. To share my side of the story, my unofficial interpretations of the conversations and events not reflected in the official paperwork. To encourage others to finally look behind the curtain and rewrite the endings the charities have been dictating in the decades since my great-great-grandfather received his now questionable knighthood. It was time to stand and be heard. To encourage others to take the same stand and demand their stories be given the spotlight. For myself. For my friend. For the women sexually assaulted by a man who at the time of publication has still not been brought to account and still volunteers for charities in the streets of London. And for the thousands of others, past and present, that have found themselves broken behind closed charity doors. These are the stories that need to be heard. So I picked up a pen.